Hello, good day, viewer. I'm Said Donlariwaju by name. The purpose of this platform, of this my channel, is to help students to excel in their various exam body. So, and I discovered that there are some topics in some subjects that confuse students. So, in this channel, we are going to break everything down one after the other for student understanding. And this channel will help students to excel in their various exam body, such as WAEC, NECO, Cambridge IGCSE, and so on and so forth. So today we want to look into longitude and latitude. We all know, so sorry, I won't be writing much. You can just get your pen and your book to jot down most things that I will be saying here on this platform. So the topic for today is longitude and latitude. And as we all know that the earth is not a perfect sphere, it is elliptical in shape, just like a shape of an egg. So now, and there are many things that is happening in order for us to locate the positions of any point on the surface of the earth. So to locate the position of any point on the surface of the earth, we have to know their latitude. We also have to know their longitude. The latitude is just like x-axis, just like if you have x comma y axis. So they always write latitude to be latitude represents my horizontal component, while the longitude represents my what? The vertical component, as if we are plotting our graph. X is my horizontal, y is my vertical. But before going into details on that, so we say that there is a line that is run from the north to the south. This line, this straight line, is known as a polar axis. It's always run from north to south. This line is known as what? The polar axis. Also, there's also a line that is run from east to west. East to west. This line is known as equatorial axis. Equatorial axis. So these two lines always run from north to south, and they pass through the centers of the earth. The same thing also goes to this line that runs from east to west. It also passes through the centers of the earth. So now we now say that any cut that takes place on the surface of the earth can either be longitude or latitude. So a horizontal cut on the surface of the earth is known as latitude. Always remember, horizontal cuts or sliced is known as latitude, while vertical cuts or sliced is known as longitude. So just take note of these 2 points. Always know that horizontal cut or sliced is known as latitude, while a vertical cut or slice is known as longitude, as shown in the diagram below. So this is a circle. So we always draw our polar axis first. We draw our equatorial axis. So I'll name it north, south, east, west. So all these other lines that call the earth horizontally is known as latitude. But remember that the first latitude is known as the equator. And I always tell you they are like kind of a spear. So we also have another one here. They can be more than this. I'm just trying to. So here represents latitude. Lines of latitude. So remember, this is the centers of the earth. So all these lines that you see here, they are lines of latitude. These are lines of latitude. We always call it parallels of latitude. Parallels of latitude. This is to the north, because it's on the northern hemisphere. This is also known as parallel of latitude to the south, because it's on southern hemisphere. Why the latitude that is drawn from east to west? I mean that the latitude that is on the equatorial axis is known as the equator. It's also a lines of latitude, but they call it the equator. The equator is always our reference point on the parallels of latitude. Are you with me? The equators at the reference point at the parallels of latitude. So let us now move to longitude. So the same thing we also have here. We have this. Please, if you don't understand, you can rewind to look at how what I've done earlier. So I also have the same thing. I have the north, the south, the east, and the west. So now I say that the horizontal chord or slide is latitude, while the vertical chord or slide is known as the longitude. Like here now, I want to explain the one for the longitude. So any chord that is run from north to south, any chord that is run from north to south is known as longitude. Any chord that is run from north to south is known as what? Longitude. So this, and this, they are what? Longitude. Lines of longitude. This is also known as lines of longitude. This is also known as lines of longitude. But in every lines of longitude, we always take the first one, like the one that is we always take the first one that is closer to the polar axis as our reference point. Just like we have reference points within the equator, we also have the reference point within the polar axis. So now, the lines of longitude can either be to east or to west. Like what we have here is the lines of longitude to the east, because it's always face either east or west, just like the one of latitude either face north or south. So for the one of longitude, it can either be east or west. Like this, I can say that lines of longitude to west, to the west. So now here, this one is always, we always have one thing, we always call it the reference point. So the reference point here is known as the prime meridians or the Greenwich meridian. So the reference point is the point with which all other lines of longitude always begins with. Just like the equator is a point with which all parallels of latitudes always begin with. The same thing also goes to this place also. So lines of longitude here, I want to make this one my prime meridians. The prime meridians is my reference point where all the lines of longitudes always begin with. So that's my prime meridians, or we also call it Greenwich. So lines of longitude, there's a reference point, we always call it the prime meridian or the Greenwich meridians. So that's all about that. So the next chapter we have to look at, since you have already know the lines of latitude, we can identify the lines of longitude, we can identify the equator as a reference point for every parallels of latitude, as well you can also identify the prime meridian or the Greenwich meridian as a lines of longitude that is the reference point for the other lines of longitude, which they take their starting point from. So now the next thing we have to now look into, we are now going to look into, and also remember that lines of latitude is 0 degree to 90 degree north or south. North or south from the equator. Their equator is the reference point. Why here we say that longitude is, that's their angle measurement, is 0 degree to 180 degree east or west. East or west from their Greenwich meridian. Their Greenwich meridians, or you can also call it from their prime meridians. But always remember that the intersections of the lines of latitude and the lines of longitude give us the location of a point on the surface of the earth. We always say that latitude can be comma longitude. So the latitude is our x-axis, while the longitude is our y-axis. So in any question given to you, either if they put north or south, comma, or they put east or west, comma, they can write it as east like this or west like this. So no matter how, either this one, it also means north or south. This simply means north or south. So in every question given to you, always know that your latitude is your x-axis, your longitude is your y-axis. So the intersection of both of them will give us the points or the location of a particular place on the surface of the earth. So that's all about that. So the next thing we are now moving to now is that how can you sketch the location of a particular place on the surface of the earth? So assuming they ask us to sketch the following points on the surface of the earth, and they actually ask us to locate the following point on the surface of the earth. So how can we sketch this? This is a point C, this is a point P, this is a place, Libreville. We can also have another place, we can have Kano, Bauchi. We all know that we locate them by their north and their what? We locate them by their latitude as well as their longitude. So now let's look at this solution of the first one. They ask to locate the position of T on the surface of the earth. They ask us to sketch. You sketch. It's very easy to sketch. This is the beginning part of the work. Sketch. That's my polar axis. That's my equatorial axis. Then east, west. So once you have drawn this, you need to draw, you can see that we have latitude here, this latitude, this longitude. And we all know that for every latitude there must be a reference point. So the reference point that we have for latitude is the equator. I'll draw my equator first. So that's my equator. You can name it like this. You can say equator. Also 40 degree. So now we now have 60 degree. 60 degree simply means we all know that this is latitude and this is longitude. So the latitude is either north or south, as I've already stated in the previous explanation. So I have a 60 degree lat. So I told you everything is like kind of a cut. So if you like, you can make it like a kind of complete cut, just like if you cut orange into two parts. So it has its own center here. So now also we have 40 degree east. Remember, this is longitude, which is vertical. The vertical cut, it can either be east to west. Here is 40 degree east, so I'm going to have a cut to the right hand side. So I'm going to have something like this. But before that, I need to first draw my reference point for lines of longitude too. So my reference point for every line of longitude is my prime meridian. Prime meridians. So don't forget that. So then the next thing I'm not going to draw, I'm going to draw my 40 degree east. I'll draw my 40 degree east. like this. This is my 40° east. Don't forget that this is 60° north. You can just label it here because this line simply means 60° north. Why this line that we have here, the second line that we have here, simply means 40° east. So now I need you to look at the intersection of this line 60° as well as this line 40°. This line 40°. Where both of them intersect is my point T. Where both of them intersect is my point T. Why? Where the Greenwich meridian or the prime meridians and the equator, where both of them intersect is this. This is the equator line. This is the slice of the equator. Why this is the slice of the what? Of the prime meridian. So the reference point there is, we always write it as G to just show that is a Greenwich meridian. Where these 2 points is actually known is this point C. That's the point that both of them meet. So that's all about that we have here. So I've tried to locate the point, the position of this point on the surface of the earth. So also we can also continue. This is my Roman figure 1. My Roman figure 2, they ask us to locate this position on the surface of the earth. I will do the same thing. I will have a circle. I'll have this. I'll have this. This is north. This is south. This is east. This is west. Also, I'll draw my equator. Then I'll draw, remember here my reference point will be in the west. So here is 50° west, so my reference point here will be in the west. That's my Greenwich meridian. And 70° south, so 70° south will be here, down here. So I have here is 70° south. Then this is my equator. Don't forget, this is equator. Then 50° west, my west will be at the left hand side here. That's 50° west. I'll call this place 50° west. So now what we have here, remember these are my prime meridians, or we can also call it Greenwich meridian. Anyone you call it is fine. Prime meridians, we also call it the Greenwich meridian. So the intersection of the equator and the prime meridian is written as G, while the intersections of the longitude of 50° west as well as the latitude of 70° south is written as P. That's the location of the point P that you have here. So it's as simple as that. So the last one that we're going to have there, so that Libreville. This is Libreville. The position I want to locate is 0° north, then 9° east. Now, when it's something is 0° north, always know that it always falls at the equator. It can either be 0° north or 0° south. They always fall at the equator. Why? Anything, whenever you are solving a problem and you have 0° east or 0° west, simply means that they fall on the Greenwich meridian or prime meridian. They fall on the prime meridian. So wherever you are facing a problem, something like this, let's assume they give you something like 20° south, they now say 0° east, or they say 0, or they said 30° north, just like different question, or they say 0° west. Anything 0° east or 0° west simply means they fall on the prime meridian, while anything 0° north or 0° south, they fall on the equator. So now I want to sketch the position of this. I'm going to have this. So I'm going to draw my vertical line, which is my polar axis, my equatorial axis. This is north, south, east, west. So we just draw the equator as usual. Then we draw the prime meridians. We already know that, so I don't need to label them again. So the next thing I will draw, we all know that this is my prime meridian, so I can call it G. And my 9 degree east is to the west. I don't need to draw 9 degree, I just need to draw my longitude, which is 9 degree east. That's 9 degree east to the west. So this is the center. So that's all about that. So this is this my 9 degree east to the west. This 9 degree east to the west, and this point is my Libreville, the intersection of the equator and the 9 degree east longitude. Is this point is my Libreville, so I just use this L to just mark that point. So that's all about that. So in our next chapter we shall deal with distance between 2 points. So but before going there, we have what we call a great circle and small circle. Now always remember that all lines of longitude all lines of longitude are great circles. All lines of longitude are great circle. Also always note that only the equator along the parallels of latitude along the parallel of latitudes is a great circle. Always remember that all lines of longitudes are great circles. And lastly, only the equator along the parallels of latitude is a great circle. Also, always remember that all parallels of latitudes are small circles. Then always remember that all lines of longitude are great circles. Only the equator along the parallels of latitude is a great circle. And lastly, we say that all parallels of latitude are small circle. So always remember that the great circle gives the radius of the earth, which is r, and which is approximately 6,400 kilometers. While all parallels of latitude use a smaller radius, which is r, which is approximately equals to r cos phi. So as time goes on, I'm going to explain how this formula is being derived. So let us have a good day. So but before we go, I'm going to give you assignments. So try to copy this and try to sketch the position of the earth. And when you are done, you can just post it on my channel and let me see how far you have gone. So my name is Said Online once again. Let us have a great day. Thank you.